So the start of my foam board flying wing project that seems to be flying really awesome. Start out with a sheet of foam board, and you're going to need 2 pieces of foam board. I don't know why I thought I did it with one the first time I made this, but apparently, you make mistakes. But you start with your 47-inch or 48-inch long ruler. Going from corner to corner of the foam board. In this case, I'm using the inside edge here. And you draw your first line from the corner to corner, and that'll give you where your fold line is going to be for your leading edge of your wing there. And then following the hopefully the little CAD plans I get drawn up this evening, you go in 4.5, down 1.5. You'll make a square, and then this measurement's going to come out to be approximate 2.5 inches from this corner. And so what you do is you actually lay out the left-hand wing. The left-hand wing first, and this is the bottom. And for the wingtip, you come in. I need to add this dimension to the plan. So you're going to come in almost right at 5 1/4 is where it's supposed to be. On this one, I'm a little bit shy. As you see, it says not here. That's actually where the fin gets glued on. My measurement was a little off, but you could technically extend it out to 5 inches to make it easier, but I don't think it's really going to do much. But hey, that's an experiment for later. So 5 1/4, and then after that you can cut this piece off, but do not throw it away. So then after that, we'll go and you score on this line, your leading edge line, and then stop about right here where the line intersects. And don't score too deep, because that will be where then you'll see in the build photos, you actually fold this over, and then that's how you trace the new top side, so you get equal proportions. And you see how it's pretty close on the deal. That's going to be important, and you'll see why in just a moment. And then you end up, just for added effect, that's the outer hinge for the wing to fold up, and you'll cut off on this extra line. And then when that's ready, we'll go to video number 2. Okay, here we are, video number 2. I've cut my pieces off, saved these, at least especially one of them, because that's going to be your center hatch. You can't really probably tell, but it has a very unique shape to it that's custom to the parts that are left over, purely coincidence. There's no real rhyme or reason. It was just kind of like, oh, let's just make this airplane. So you see these dashed lines. I'm going to try to put those in the CAD file as well, but those are going to be your bend lines. So when I originally drew them, I actually scored them, and I'll probably score on those lines again. But on the leading edge line here, what we're going to do is we're going to come in about I think I did 1/4 inch, so I'm probably going to do just a little bit less. And you're going to do like the normal flight test thing. I don't know if it's an A fold, B fold, or whatever. But it's going to be kind of a C fold, actually, in my opinion, or I'm going to call it a C fold. Probably has no meaning in flight test. But you're going to come off this blue line, which is going to be your hinge line to, make the wing shape. And you're going to cut it back, so that way when you fold this one over, It makes a nice smooth leading edge and not have a lot of things. I mean, you could technically cheat, and how I was originally going to do it is just do it this way, but then you have a very blunt leading edge that you would have to bevel. So why not just bevel it, fold it over, and you'll see that in the next video. Why I did that. So we'll see you in just a second. And we're back. So to review, I got the tape on the back, and remember to, just like when you cut the original leading edge line, don't cut all the way through because you need the paper. So now we have a channel. Let me see if I can get a snapshot while we're doing this. I doubt it. Pushed it. Button. There we go. So now when we fold this over, Shazam, and then our trailing edges should just about match up. Don't look at that. That's a mess up. That was pretty much close on the 2.5 inch from the trailing edge there. So you'll put a mark here, and let's see if I can do this. Now you have where on the prototype here, there's actually a rib, half rib, false rib, if you want to call it that actually goes, destroy the airplane here. It goes partially through to there, and then there's a false spar that goes about to here, to about 1/4 to 1/2 inch into this. And basically it'll go and stop here because that's where, let me pull this thing actually comes out tail heavy. Imagine that, being a flying wing. So I had to use a 910 milliamp lipo as ballast, but it'd be perfect probably about the same weight as a small GoPro. And I'm just running some old 3-cell 2100 milliamp lipo pack, but you can kind of see it here. This spar that's made out of the leftover scrap actually goes into the wing to about, I don't know, about halfway through the wing, and it's purely didn't think it was going to be strong enough, but it's doubled up and hot melt glued together, so it's laminated pretty good. I think I'd even use Elmer's glue on it too, just to double it up. Other than that, this whole wing is open, even on the wingtips, I believe, unless I stuck some piece there, but I don't think I did. So we're going to go to the next step. Don't want these videos to be too ridiculously long, and I know y'all don't like hearing my voice, so without further ado, we'll proceed to the next step. Alrighty, so what I've done is I've got these now on the top surface of the wing, the marks, and I simply did it by folding it over, and as you can see there, I transferred the marks from the bottom wing to the top. Same thing on the tip. It was a little bit kind of harder to do that, but you just mark real close on the edge and then fold it over. And then what this is allowing me to do is I'm going to come back with my trusty straight edge here, and I'm going to cut a very light line just to the top surface of the paper. Paper's still on the wings, except for, you know, where we removed it for the leading edge, and the foam too right there on the leading edge. So I'm going to score 2 lines on both top and bottom of the side of the left wing, and you'll repeat this same process for the right side. Once you do that, then what I did on the first prototype build was I used this and simply put my other piece of foam board under it and traced it, and then you have your template for the right wing. You just have to remember to simply make sure all your folds and cuts are on the reverse of this, otherwise you'll make another left wing like I did the first go around. But I was able to save it before I got too far ahead of myself, and went from there. So I'm gonna score it and then go ahead and transfer my dimensions and everything to the next piece of foam board, and then I'll be ready to use the beveled surface of my wife's really nice granite countertop here to roll it back and forth on the edge, and that will allow it to give a nice smooth airfoil shape. I've had people ask me how did I do it, and you know, minus had a little slight issue this weekend, and I mean, it gives this thing, it's hard doing this one-handed, gives this thing a really slick airfoil that's, I mean, total thickness is maybe 2.5 inches thick at the root, and I mean, it almost goes flat at the wingtip. And somehow, by sheer luck, you can't really tell in the video, but I ended up with reflex at the wingtips. That was a happy accident, because flying wings need reflex no matter what airfoil shape you have, unless it's already in the shape of the airfoil itself. And yeah, so that's part of the reason why it flies so good. It does have a unique thing that when you throttle off, it pitches down, not violently, but it definitely wants to start heading down. So I think there also could be some thrust line issues and whatnot, but seems to be doing fine. And I think I have a Facebook video of it flying around at our field, so I'll try to tag it to you somehow into the build or whatnot sequence. But there's that, and then I'll show you where all your spar placements and everything are going to go. Don't do anything with this line, because that's there purely to reference where you're going to start gluing stuff together. And then yeah, we're going to go to the next step. Alrighty, well, we taken and bent the curvature of the wing. It folds over much nicer now, and now we have an airfoil. And so next is to what I ended up doing on the first one was I actually came and I put hot melt glue on the trailing edge, folded this over, and basically made an airfoil shaped pocket. And then I came in here, and when I did that, I got the piece to make my false rib and go in there, and that actually stiffens up the motor area quite well. And I'm going to make some modifications to we'll call this the Mark II prototype. This one, when you put the battery in, you have to cram a lot of foam in there to keep the battery from sliding in the wing. So what I thought about was, found this foam packing out of something my wife got for Christmas. I think it was like out of some kind of little makeup palette or something, but I think it would work perfectly for putting it in there, and you glue this in, and then you don't have to worry so much about the battery moving around. And now that I know that the 3-cell needs to go as far forward as possible, because battery placement was kind of an afterthought. Can't really go in like that per se and come out right on balance. So I'm gonna try doing some reworking, and I know I've got a lot of weight back here from the Coroplast motor box, and especially the Coroplast Elevons, but I think that adds a lot of rigidity to it and keeps it, in my opinion, a little stronger, because you drag that prop through the grass and I mean it's gonna rip the whole motor off the back of the airplane. You can see where the breakaway mount did work once with the other motor choice I had on there that was not a strong enough motor. I used a E-Flight, I think it was the E-Flight 470 kilovolt or something like that, or 740 kilovolt motor, more for like a 10-inch prop, and with these flying wings you want speed, so they do not like really flying slow. They will fly extremely slow if you have the push behind it with pitch. So yep, we're gonna fold this over, probably glue it up, and all I did is I just took it and folded over the hard lines first, and then just kind of came in and just mashed it down and rolled it over the top, and ta-da, got a wing. So wing spars are next, and the false rib, and then before I glue it over, I'm gonna work on the CG or the battery holder to help the CG issue out, and maybe do away with the extra battery that doesn't do anything, because I mean I don't usually stick a GoPro in the nose of everything just because we fly over a pond, and you know I don't want to lose a GoPro. Alrighty, so back to work on the left wing panel, and what I've done is I scored mine a little too heavy, so I actually had to go in there and oopsies, I had on my lines that I scored, I had to go back in and kind of split them open and squirt some hot melt glue about every ½ inch or so, and then I ran a bead down the solid leading edge, and then also on the trailing edge. It didn't really glob out or anything, and anything that kind of oozed out here on the trailing edge, I just simply kind of smoothed it out with my finger, and so you actually have a fairly rigid, you can kind of squeeze it a little bit, airfoil shape now. And so the next step is to take your box tape, and it could be just the regular standard, you know, clear brown tape, or you could even use the fiber reinforced tape, but that's actually way more overkill than it needs to be. But just run you a strip from here to all the way to the end here, and then what you'll do is you'll cut it here, fold it over, and that's going to stiffen up the trailing edge tremendously. I think I'm going to deviate from the prototype, and I'm going to go ahead and put either a whole rib or at least a spacer right here to hold the airfoil shape a little truer, because it was relatively almost flat on the other one, which just for the sake of argument, just going to try something a little different, but I think it'll work. And then I didn't put the little battery box thing in there quite yet, because I'm going to maybe even make it to where there's actually a full rib into the deal. So hopefully it'll work out a little bit better than the original prototype. I'm gonna also try to fly it with the battery turned long ways in there, which I originally didn't want to do because I was afraid that in the event of a crash, it would just obliterate the battery into all the other electronics inside the fuselage. But at the same time, then that'll keep it from being less likely to rock back and forth, sliding in one way of the wing or not, and making one wing heavier. But that's it, and there's no beveling or anything on the trailing edge of the wing. It will actually have a significant hinge gap in the tape for the elevons that you won't need to bevel it or anything. and it works extremely smooth, and there's very little if any load on the servos trying to bend tape or bend the control surface, you know, even like when you cut with the foam board hinge. So, all right, we're going to tape it up and we're going to proceed to the next step. Okay, so take 3. The previous video got cut off short. We have built both wing panels. Got the angled spar glued in there. We've also glued both wingtip ribs in. And basically now you'd be ready to join the wings together. With the exception of, when you go to glue it together, you have to put your hot melt glue on the spar. Put most of it, kind of like butter it nice and flat on the, that's my parakeet, on the spar. Put a lot of it at the tip. When you slide it in, it's going to push it back. So be prepared for the ooze. But when the wing halves go together, at the front you get a substantial gap. And I'm sure there's a simple layout I could do to avoid it, but basically I just have it marked. You just kind of overlap one and then overlap the other one onto itself, and then when you trim the nose to fit, that gap will go away, and then you're going to put a doubling strip actually coming from the spar forward into the nose cavity, and that's going to stiffen the nose up tremendously. And probably on this one, I'll probably do a reinforcing strip to the motor box. I might change the motor box design up a little bit just on this wing, just to have something different. Maybe make it a little bit easier for the end user to do. So total build time into it now would be about 3 hours, just due to the complexity that you have to transfer one shape to the other. Off the plans and whatnot, but this one's actually turning out a lot nicer than the original one, so we're gonna just keep rocking and rolling, and I may even change my battery placement towards forward in attempts to see if that'll bring the CG forward some to use less nose weight. Alright, so I'm gonna get to it, and next video the wings should be glued together and ready for the doublers. Now this beauty right here is the Mark 1 prototype of my flying wing build that I did. And as you can see, it's really rough for the wear because I mean it was very rudimentary cut out. I mean, I just kind of freehanded it with an X-Acto knife at the time. I went to do an avionics upgrade on it with standard size servos and supposedly a higher power ESC, 35 amps, and then some Value Hobby electric motor, which it pulled way too many amps and promptly smoked the ESC. So thus we built a new one. Well, that's a wrap for another RC rehab video production. Like and subscribe, and if you get a chance, review some of the other videos. Got a lot coming, a lot to go. We got more projects on the way, so see you later.